Morning, everyone. Before we start the talk, let's have a little meditation. So breathe out all your tension, be relaxed. I'll say the words and then we'll have just a short time of quiet and peace, and then I'll start the talk. Just breathe out any tension, be nice and relaxed. We're all together, no matter where we are in the world, what time of day it is. We're all together for this hour, next hour or so. May penetrating light dispel the darkness of ignorance. May all karma be resolved and the mind flower of wisdom bloom in nirvana's eternal spring. May all those who are afflicted by affliction be affliction free. May they be serene to all their ills. Even if bodily afflictions do not subside, may we all be healed in heart and mind. May all beings live in peace and harmony. May they have health and wealth and comforts and friends that are true. May they have skills, talents, and knowledge, and sweet success in all that they do. May they have joy and happiness in abundance. May all beautiful, great, and noble virtues of generosity, love, kindness, compassion, patience, fortitude, tolerance, forgiveness, honesty, courage, strength, energy, resolution, determination, resilience, perseverance, consideration, humility, gratitude, contentment, composure, serenity, wisdom, understanding, and equanimity be theirs. May they attain full wisdom and enlightenment. May they be liberated from all suffering. Thank you. Now, today's talk is entitled, Together We Are One. I'll start off with a quote from H.P. Blavatsky that I've used before, and I use it quite a lot. One of my favourites. It says, though but a minority of our members are mystically inclined, yet in point of fact, the key to all our success and successes is in our recognition of the fact of the highest self, colourless, cosmopolitan, unsectarian, sexless, unworldly, altruistic, and the doing of our work on that basis. To the secularist, the agnostic, the stylistic scientist, such results would have been unattainable, nay, would have been unthinkable. Peace societies are utopian, because no amount of argument based upon exoteric considerations of social morals or expediency can turn the hearts of the rulers of nations away from selfish war and schemes of conquest. And that's very relevant to the world today. That's from an article called Our Three Objects by H.P. Blavatsky. So nor can this be achieved by organised religion, but only by cultivating an awareness of our higher self and the recognition of it in other people and other beings, regardless of race, creed, sex, caste, or colour. The title of this article is from a quote by Thich Nhat Hanh, the Zen master from Vietnam. It is deceptively simple and yet holds a wealth of inspiration and hope for humanity. When we look at the quote from H.P. Blavatsky, we are made aware of the solution to the problems in the world today. Theosophy throughout the ages has always promoted the teachings of the oneness of all things, and the fact that outer differences are illusory in the long run. It also gives the answer as to why the world is in such a turmoil, because generally society has very little conception of oneness, and conflict is caused by a misunderstanding of the true nature of life. Peace will never be reached by diplomacy or social means, as these still promote separateness, as does organised religion. There has to be some common bond that links everyone and everything on this planet and beyond. The higher self transcends all differences and conceptual views, and is the same in everyone, beyond the illusions that divide. Ephesians 4:31-32 says, "Get rid of all bitterness, rage and anger, brawling and slander, along with every form of malice. Be kind and compassionate to one another, forgiving each other, just as in Christ God forgave you." So, to do this is easier if we are aware that everyone is divine and that Christ God is a spirit that we all share and not a separate being. It is the same as the Buddha nature. "Look inward, thou art Buddha," says the voice of the silence by H.P. Blavatsky. It is not saying we will become Buddha, but that we are already Buddha or enlightened at this very moment now. We just have to become aware of it. As Jesus says in the Sermon on the Mount, forgive not 7 times, but 70 times 7 times. We must be aware of the limitations of human nature and the powerful negative effects of the age of Kali, or the age of darkness that we are in, and we are living through now, at the moment. Forgiveness can be a powerful way to clear away the bitterness, rage and anger, brawling and slander that was mentioned in the quote from Ephesians. We can forgive ourselves for past transgressions and resolve not to do the same again. We learn by our mistakes and by trial and error. If we have the right attitude, everything we experience can help us to grow spiritually. But it must be very hard to forgive certain people for things they have done. Does not forgiving them do any good? It creates bitterness and spreads bad blood throughout a world that is crying out for love and peace. Egotism rules. Why else would someone crave a position of power and use that position to control and subjugate the population? Why else would they do this? Why is it often the case that the wrong person is placed in charge of a country and proceeds to promote violence and war against other countries? Why do they support the stockpiling of deadly weapons instead of using their power to spread love and peace amongst nations? Why are those who advocate peace often assassinated? Why do certain people and organisations in general fear peace? Well, these are questions that need to be answered if we want to understand human nature as it is and find ways to help humanity to become more spiritually orientated. The lower self craves excitement. That is why people get involved in various sports and activities. But it is only peace and silence in these things, in peace and silence, that we hear the promptings of the higher self. There's time for both activity and periods of peace and harmony. But as we progress spiritually, we feel the need for more sedate times when the body rests, but there is more activity going on within the being. The main point is to begin to see ourselves as we truly are. Indoctrination has made us rely on someone or something external, whether it is a limited conception of a God, the government, or someone we believe to be superior to us. The truth is that we can take advice and we can have pointers given to us by others, but we have all that we need for the journey just within us. Robert Crosby, the founder of the United Lodge of Theosophists, writes, "For practical purposes, if we are developing the child heart, if we are learning to love things beautiful, if we are becoming more honest and plain and simple, if we are beginning to sense the sweet side of life, if we are getting to like our friends better and extending the circle, if we feel ourselves expanding in sympathy, if we love to work for Theosophy and do not ask position as a reward, if we are not bothering too much about whether we are personal or impersonal, this is travelling on the path of impersonality." And that's from a book called The Friendly Philosopher, page 127. And that is a wonderful way to look at life. There's so much doom and gloom being spread around today. But it is good to start to sense the sweet side of life. Of course, you may realise that for millions in war zones and deprived areas, this may be very difficult. It's very difficult to do. But for those who are able, there is the opportunity to at least add a little positivity to the world, some gentleness and some compassion. To love things beautiful is also very important. Truly beautiful things are glimmerings from our spiritual nature, and to love them is to have some intimations of our immortality, as the poet William Wordsworth puts it. It speaks to the child heart within each one of us. But there's also a sensual beauty, of course, that appeals to our lower principles. We have to discover what it is that helps us to become more gentle, more loving and more caring, and what extends our circle of friends on the spiritual path. Violence does not solve anything. It is totally alien to our spiritual nature. It is a man-made reaction to certain situations that is based upon the limited materialistic view most people have of life. The true purpose of an enlightened way of life is to reduce suffering and to heal the world with loving kindness. The Theosophical movement promotes this object in the form of this universal brotherhood of humanity regardless of race, creed, sex, caste or colour. And the quote that was used at the beginning of this talk gives a truly practical way to go about this. It is by uniting all living things under the aegis of the higher self and putting aside the seeming differences generated by the great dire heresy of separateness that weans us from the rest, as the voice of the silence says. And Confucius stated that if we do not develop fellow feeling, then we are no more than mannequins. We do not develop fellow feeling, we are no more than mannequins. If we want to succeed in helping humanity, even in a very humble way, we need to take the stance of being spiritual beings. At first, this may seem to be just an intellectual understanding, as this is how we begin most undertakings. But then we should begin to study, meditate and practice in whatever way helps us to awaken a growing awareness of our higher self. All the work we do in the world should have that idea at the back of our minds constantly. For the majority of people, the idea of a higher self never enters their consciousness. And for many others, it just remains this intellectual concept. To actually take the stance of the higher self is a rarity in modern society. Yet all of us have the opportunity to become what we are beyond the labelling, to realise our true potential, and to realise that we are not creatures of a day, but immortal beings. and another phrase I like to use, denizens of eternity. There's a process of awakening, a divine discontent with the status quo, and a desire to seek permanence in the midst of the inner and outer changes that we all go through. Change is often accompanied by suffering. Once we become aware of our impermanence, before we have realized our immortality, there may be a period when we go through a dark night of the soul, when we become downcast as a result of our material goods and our earthly thoughts, which do not provide the sustenance that we need, spiritual sustenance. Our physical mortality becomes very apparent, and we cry out to our higher self to reveal to us our true nature. The cry may be conscious or unconscious at first, but in time we are given the opportunity to take our progress in hand and forge our own destiny. We do not do this alone, of course, but in the company with our fellow pilgrims on the path to enlightenment. True spiritual friendship is needed. The Tibetan blessing says, "May you be at peace. May your heart remain open. May you awaken to the light of your true nature. May you be healed. May you be a source of healing for all beings." Now, in this world, most people seem to be troubled. As I've mentioned elsewhere in other talks, the old Indian saying says that the smile you send out returns to you. Well, this is a rare thing nowadays, unless you are in a spiritual community or with family and friends. This feeling of separateness divides us. When we retreat into our own segregated world, mistrusting anyone out of our self-created circle. How have we fallen so far from the injunctions of all the great world teachers which tell us to love one another? The blessing quoted above comes from a heart filled with kindness. In truth, we must learn to be kind and to appreciate each other at our true worth. We should wish for each other just what the words say. Hearts cry out for love and for peace and for some hope in this often cruel world. Those who are in positions of power rarely help to ease the pain of others, but add to it with threats of violence and even nuclear destruction. No wonder fear spreads through the collective heart and mind of humanity. If we are one, we all feel everything. But besides the pain that is so predominant, we can also experience the beauty of love deep within our souls. To make people aware of this is of paramount importance. Other teachings are just secondary. It is a good thing to make our own prayers and send them out into this troubled world. We can all think of things to say in a beautiful way. And an example of this is a modern Quaker prayer by someone called Andrew Webber, which is written on February 5th, 2025. And it says, "In the midst of the anger and frustration is hope. Hope that we are here. Hope that a loving world is indeed possible. Hope in the faith that love can and will triumph over hate." And that's just a simple prayer, but the words are very beautiful and very meaningful. Because many people in the world today have this heart cry to heal the world, just as much as those who compose the blessings of so many traditions, spiritual or otherwise, centuries ago sometimes. But they had this same feeling to heal the world. A prayer is, of course, addressed to our own inner God or higher self, not to an external being, which is illogical and will kill self-reliance. Many are those who hear the song of the soul and are inspired by the purity and beauty that it instills in their hearts. They know that what life is and how wonderful it really can be when you take away the dark clouds that negative thought has created to obscure the sun of truth. In the voice of the silence it is written, "Alas, alas, that all men should possess a lyre, be one with the great soul, and that possessing it, a liar, should so little avail them." Behold, how like the moon, reflected in the tranquil waves. Malaya is reflected by the small and by the great, is mirrored in the tiniest atom, yet fails to reach the heart of all. Alas, that so few men, women of course, should profit by the gift, the priceless boon of learning truth, the right perception of existing things, the knowledge of the non-existent. Everyone has this wellspring of love and light at their disposal, but most people are unaware of it, so they live their lives totally oblivious of their potential as spiritual beings. We see such acts of cruelty in the world today because of this lack of understanding, the understanding of the wonder and beauty of each human being, and the fact that we are all brothers and sisters in the spirit. No matter how dark and cruel the world gets, we must have this hope shining in our hearts. We must do what we can to keep loving kindness at the forefront of our aspirations and practices. We must never despair of human nature and know that most people respond to words of gentleness and compassion and acts of gentleness and compassion. The sad fact is that very few actually hear them nowadays in an atmosphere of competition and harshness that are promoted as being necessary to survive in this modern world. Religions have created a god of intolerance and cruelty, spawned from the lowest emotions and feelings of humanity. The true God of love dwells within each one of us, in the very depths of our being, and has no affinity with violence and negativity of any kind. This is the real God, not the God of cruelty, anger, jealousy, which are just lower human emotions, which a God would never have. We can take time each day to think beautiful thoughts and send them out into the world. We all know that if some tragedy occurs, we feel it in our hearts. We experience anger or depression. We know that the consciousness of humanity has been polluted. I've mentioned this in previous talks because it is essential to understand that if we are one, and if all of us wish to ease the pain of others, we should try and remain awake to the fact that we can affect the consciousness of all beings positively, that the power of the spirit is many times more potent than the dark forces that are rife in the world today. We need an enlightened faith that love will triumph, and if we love one another as fellow pilgrims on the sacred journey, then a start is made. We can form a nucleus of the universal brothers and sisters of humanity. Think of all those qualities mentioned in the meditation at the beginning, qualities that make us truly human. Romans 13:10 states, "Love does no harm to a neighbour, therefore love is the fulfilment of the law." Love does no harm to a neighbour, therefore love is the fulfilment of the law. If we understand what love is, then we could never do any harm to another living being in any way. In the end, this is all that really matters in our lives if we have to create a world in which we live in the light of our higher self, and all our thoughts and actions are guided by this. It's important to understand the level of love that we are discussing. It is not sentimental, emotional, or sensual, but a reflection of that harmony that was the very first thing that came into being. I've also mentioned in previous talks that kama, not karma, K-A-M-A, this is, often regarded as desire, has a much higher meaning esoterically. According to the Theosophical glossary, kama is the first conscious, all-embracing desire for universal good, love, and for all that lives and feels, needs help and kindness. The first feeling of infinite tender compassion and mercy that arose in the consciousness of the creative one force as soon as it came into life and being as a ray from the absolute. So let us try to see the beauty in life and in others. Materialism forces us to see the world in a mechanical way, not inspirationally. It just proves a disaster as it tears the world apart in so many ways. As Thich Nhat says, we are here to awaken from our illusion of separateness. And that's what it's all about. We must certainly begin to sense the sweet side of life and to cultivate this awareness in ourselves and others to counteract the wave of depression that spreads across the world when we hear of some terrible natural disaster or man-made atrocity. We should try to be friendly to the race of man and woman, of course, always extending our circle of friendship in whatever way we can. None of this may be as easy as it sounds, but try is the magic word. We must do what we can from our own position in life to a greater or lesser degree. Just do what we can. Maybe something very small, maybe something large. We don't know. We just have to decide for ourselves what we can do. Let the heart be the guide. Writing about theosophy in a wider sense, H.P. Blavatsky states, many who have never heard of the society are theosophists without knowing it themselves. For the essence of theosophy is the perfect harmonizing of the divine with the human in man, the adjustment of his godlike qualities and aspirations, and the sway over the terrestrial or animal passions in him, kindness, absence of every ill feeling or selfishness, charity, goodwill to all beings, and perfect justice to others as to oneself are its chief features. He who teaches theosophy preaches the gospel of goodwill, and the converse of this is true also. He who preaches the gospel of goodwill teaches theosophy. End of quote. And H.P. Blavatsky also always said that there are more people theosophists outside of the society than within it. It's just how one lives that makes one a theosophist, not because he belongs to any organisation or whatever. So if we preach the gospel of goodwill, that's preaching theosophy, if you like. So let us then preach the gospel of goodwill and love. And let's love all that is true, truly beautiful and inspirational in the world, all that helps the light of the Spirit to shine brighter in each one of us. But most importantly, let us love one another, for together we are one. Thanks very much for listening. Just finished a little bit of quietness. In fact, I'll just repeat the little blessing, the Tibetan blessing, of the short one. I'll let a couple of minutes of quiet. So breathe out any tension. May you be filled with loving kindness. May you be well. May you be peaceful and at ease. May you be happy. And may you be at peace. May your heart remain open. May you awaken to the light of your own true nature. May you be healed. May you be a source of healing for all beings. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Peace, peace, peace. Peace on earth and goodwill to all beings. Namaste. The divine in me greets the divine in you. Thank you. Until we meet again. See you soon.